Good morning, it's 5 a.m. Let me tell you a very scary story about how I was stalked by what I think was a skinwalker. This isn't a funny story. This isn't anything like the Sharon Tate story. This is something I've never publicly talked about, and to this day, I just still can't explain. So, where I used to live when I was a little boy was an area of Temecula known as Deleuze. It's this like hilly, mountainous area that sort of overlooks the Temecula Basin. And Deleuze is surrounded by oak and avocado groves. So it's dark, and there's like all these like kind of gullies and canyons and stuff like that. And my brother and I would explore them on our bikes. But even before then, I have lived in Deleuze twice in my life. Once when I was a little boy from like the ages of like 0 to 5 to we moved, and then I was there from like ages 10 to 12. Anyway, so the first time in Deleuze, something that just I've never been able to explain, and this all kind of factors into the same thing. When I was a little boy, in the first house that we lived in, we lived on acreage. Like, we had a couple acres deep in these groves. I called it the big house because it was just a big white house. And so I would always hear voices in the trees. And I was like a very precocious young child, and so I would talk to them. But they were talking to me in a language that I never understood. I never could figure it out. And when we started to explore the property more, as my brother and I grew up, we found arrowheads. There was a little creek that ran next to the house, and we found arrowheads and like artifacts. And so like there was also this like giant stone in the backyard, like deep. And it had these like holes, like where someone would take like a stone and like grind like corn. But I could never get over the fact that whenever I would be by myself in the backyard, I always felt like I was being watched. And so one night when I was a little boy, I asked my dad in the middle of the night to walk down to the kitchen with me and get a glass of water. And we had this really big plate window in the kitchen, and staring back at me were these giant orange eyes. And I have never been able to like describe the fear and the dread of seeing these unblinking giant orange eyes. It was probably an animal, honestly, but you can't rationalize that when you're like 4 or 5 years old. Even now, whenever I have nightmares, I genuinely see those orange eyes. So that's sort of the first part of this story. Just setting up of like, Deleuze has a very ancient, weird energy that I can't explain. Second time that we moved to Deleuze was the time that I am still just terrified to even talk about publicly. Let me grind this coffee 1 second. So after my father passes away, my mom and my brother moved back to Temecula. We find another house in the Deleuze area because it's just where we know. And it's a pretty cool property. I have neighbors now, like kids my age, and that I can hang out with. I really like this place that we live. And so one day, my brother and I are riding around on our bikes, and we find this area kind of near our house where there were supposed to be some other houses built. And in this grove of oaks overlooking a canyon, there is a tree house. And we freak out. We have always wanted a tree house of our own. And it's very clear that this has been abandoned, like years and years ago. The wood is kind of rotten. The everything is sort of like dilapidated. And the thing with that is there's a lot of rust. And so like you can already smell this like very like tangy, rusty smell in the air. And so We then say, this is our treehouse. No one's clearly using it, so let's make it ours. And we go back to the house and we start getting tools. We start working on this. And whenever we have neighbor friends over, we go work on the treehouse. It was basically like Mom would take us to Home Depot. We'd get a couple 2x4s, some nails, and start hammering it in. And so about a month later, my brother Chase and my mom go on a field trip to Sacramento because that was the big trip at the time. And so I'm staying with some neighbor friends and their son, Taylor. And I get on my bike one day after school and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go ride my bike. And they're like, oh, where are you going to go? And I said, oh, the treehouse. And the mom is like, what treehouse? So I'm like, oh, the one that's like up Sunset Terrace. And she's like, honey, don't go there. I was like, why? And she's like, just don't go there, please. I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I went there because I'm dumb. And when I get there, there's a kid. There's a kid just working on the treehouse. And I've never seen him before. And so I'm like, hey, hello. And he like waves back. And so I come up and I'm like, hi, I'm Hunter. What's your name? And he says, I'm working on the treehouse. I'm like, yeah, I see that. That's cool. Is this yours? And he's like, no, I like it though. I'm like, okay. So he's giving like fairly short one-word answers. And the thing that I'm noticing now is that rusty smell from before is heightened. It is a lot more intense. Like it is like this rust. It's like blood and rust. It's a very metallic smell. And I'm starting to get pretty queasy, like really off-putted. And it's getting to the point where I'm almost about to throw up. And this kid is just like, he's working on the treehouse, but it's almost as if like he's acting out working on the treehouse. Like he's not actually doing anything. And so I'm trying to get like asking more questions, like where he lives. And he's only really giving one-word answers if he gives answers at all. And I'm just starting to feel weird and my stomach feels sick from the smell. And I'm like, hey, I'm actually going to go. He's like, I know. You're going to go now. I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, well, I'll see you later. Still don't have his name. And I get on my bike and I ride away and I like look back. And he's then standing in the field. Like standing where these houses were supposed to be built. Later that night, I can't sleep. Like I can't sleep at all. And I feel this like need to like look out the window. And there's this kid standing at the top of the driveway. I'm like genuinely like all the hair is like standing on my hand. He's like standing in the driveway and it's clearly this kid, but it's as if this kid is like crooked. It's literally like he's looking like this. He's just standing there. And I like blink and like I close the blinds. And I can feel like when you feel someone's presence like coming up to a window, you know they're there. And I could not sleep that entire night because I felt that presence at that window. And like right before in the morning, it was a Friday. And so I just had to check for myself. And I went outside before we left for school and I looked and there were like these weird misshapen, like it looked like a footprint, but it was almost as if it was like made by an animal. It was just standing in front of that window. I can't explain it. This is what happened. Believe me if you want. I think I was stalked by a skinwalker. All right. Bye. Good morning. It's 6 a.m. This is part 2 of how I think I was stalked by a skinwalker. So after my mom and my brother get back from this field trip, there are just weird things that are happening in and around our house that I can't explain. There are doors left open. There are, like, my computer would turn on at random times at night, and, like, I'm starting to get goosebumps just talking about this again. Like, there were so many things that I could not explain. To the point that whenever I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would always see a figure. And like it was just this dark figure that would always be like just ever so slightly out of glance. Like sometimes like when you see shapes at night, you can pretty much figure out that it's something in your house. This was humanoid. This was a figure. And what I I can't explain is the fact that light would not reflect off of it like a normal object. It's as if light went into it and stopped. And so a couple months go by and a literal once in every 30-year snowstorm happens in Temecula. This is something that is a freak weather occurrence, and so it's snowing in Duluth. And like I wake up at 5 a.m. and I even see snowfall, and I like go to my mom and she's like, go to bed, you're lying, like there's no snowfall. It was snowing. And so as I'm on my way back from my mom's room to my room, I pass by the kitchen, which has a big window. What is standing outside? It's the crooked figure. It's just standing there in the snow. And I can clearly tell that snow is on it. And I'm like, genuinely, every single fiber of my being knows what I saw. It was just standing there. And the thing that I still can't explain is that its eyes were orange. I know in part 1, I said it could have been an animal. Every fiber of my being says that that thing had orange eyes. It felt like this thing has been following me since I was a child. Later that day, we play in the snow, all that, but I take a second just for myself and I walk out back and I see the same prints. It's the exact same prints that were outside the window. It's there. It was there. I know for a fact that up until we left that property, it was always there. And it was always in some way, just like in my peripheral, in my vision, around me. It wasn't like it was stalking. It was as if it was trying to learn my behavior. But here's kind of the weirdest part about all of this. It never felt like it wanted to do anything nefarious. It always felt like it was curious. Like it wanted to know more. It wanted some amount of a connection. Like it, in a weird way, it felt like it wanted a friend. Yet the way and the manner of how it was occupying my space was terrifying to a 10-year-old. And so a couple years later, when we go to sell the house is emptied at this point, and I'm just like walking around. I don't know where my mom is, and my brother is somewhere on the other side of the house. And I hear the voice from the treehouse just call out saying, goodbye. And it's always as if, because then I start trying to follow the voice, like, where is this coming from? I'm trying to like run around. I'm trying to like find it. I can't find it. There's a little shed on the property. Cute little shed. And I go outside and I see the boy from the treehouse. Whatever that I saw all those, months ago. And he goes into the shed. And so like I run into the shed. There's nothing there. There's a part of me that feels like that spirit, whatever it was trapped. And it was just looking for some amount of a companion. That's it. Good morning, it's 8:30 a.m. This is part 3 of how I was stalked by what I think was a skinwalker. And this is kind of an insane update because I reached out to my next door neighbor and I asked her about why she said not to go to the treehouse. And so this is from Taylor's mom. Hi, Hunter. It's been a long time. Wow. Yes, I do remember the treehouse. As memory serves me, when we first moved to the neighborhood, we went on a walk one evening up around where your house and several others were still being built. For whatever reason, we decided to walk one of the lots that had just been graded. We had only been there for a couple minutes, but there was this sudden awful smell. We both smelled it and couldn't place where it was coming from. So when I looked towards the trees at the far end of the lot line, I could have sworn I saw a small boy standing under what looked like a pile of rotten wood stuck in a tree. A couple days later, Taylor remarked on meeting a young boy his age in our backyard who told him about a treehouse and said he should go to it. Even today, my skin crawls just thinking about it. He had never seen that little boy since. I watched your video. Yes, I think that was the thing Taylor and I both saw. Give all my love to your mom and brother. May God bless you and keep you safe. I can't explain this, man. Neither can she. If there's enough interest, there's a part of me that wants to go back and just show that this thing exists. But, you know, as I've been reflecting on that time, more and more events have started coming up. So if there's more interest, I'll do a part 3, but I have to get ready for work. So there you go. That's why she said not to go to the treehouse.
So I recently broke a dream rule. It's something I heard about when that trend was going on where you're supposed to ask someone in your dream the date and the time, which I did do that trend, but that's a story for another TikTok. But one of the rules that I saw is that you're not supposed to like tell people in your dream that you know that you're dreaming. That's the rule that I broke. And yeah, I want to tell you about what happened when I told the people in my dream that I knew that I was dreaming. So in the dream, I was at a party and there was some people there that I recognized, but there was this one woman in particular, didn't recognize her, and she also didn't look completely human. Her eyes looked kind of like alien and just like had this like dark color to them, and she was giving me this really negative energy. Like she seemed like she was like judging me and just had bad intentions. That's when I realized I was dreaming, and I did not want this woman to be in my dream anymore. So I thought to myself, I'm just gonna tell them all that I'm dreaming. And I even remember in the dream thinking, oh, that's like a dream rule that I shouldn't break. I shouldn't tell them that I know that I'm dreaming, but I decided to break the rule anyway. So it was like, hey, I know that I'm dreaming. This is my dream. And I looked at the woman and I was like, I don't want you here. You need to leave my dream. And to my surprise, she left. She stood up, walked out the door of the house and left. And then something else happened that surprised me. The other characters in the dream started asking me for permission to stay in the dream. They were like, oh, well, we know you asked her to leave, but can we stay? And they started asking me for permission to like do other things like in the dream, like at the party, like, can we do this? Can we do that? And I was like, what? Like I did not expect for that to happen. And then I started like pushing it a little bit more because at this point I'm like, oh, I'm lucid dreaming. I'm in control. I decided I wanted to switch dream locations. I decided I literally wanted to like teleport to my mom's house. So I went into this back room, closed the door, closed my eyes, and just started picturing my mom's house. Like I pictured I'm gonna open this door, it's gonna open up into the hallway of my mom's house. But then I opened the door and there's just this black hallway in front of me. And at the end of the hallway, there is like, I could see the frame, like the outline of a door. It's a shut door, but there's light coming through it and I could hear voices behind the door laughing. It sounded like they were having a good time. So I decided that I was gonna walk down the hallway towards the door. But as soon as I took a step, there was no floor. I just fell into darkness and just kept falling and falling and falling. I felt like I was falling forever into just nothing. And I literally had a thought of like, oh, I went too far. I broke my dream world. Am I gonna be stuck like this forever? But then after what felt like minutes of just falling, the sensation went away. Like it felt like I was just like laying down, resting. And that's when I realized the dream was over. When I was awake, I had a sleep mask on, so everything still looked dark, but I took the sleep mask off and I was fine. But yeah, I'm just curious if anyone else has had a dream like similar to that, where it's like you go to a different location in the dream, but it's not loaded, almost like a video game where like the location hasn't loaded yet. That's what it felt like. But yeah, that's the dream rule that I broke. That's what happened. Has anyone else experienced something like this?
Alright, so now that there's more talk about aliens and whatever, and the aliens in the ocean, which if they're from the ocean, they're from Earth, which means they're not aliens. Regardless, we all know aliens exist. Okay, so now I can tell you about the time where I am pretty fucking sure I got abducted. So I was 5 years old, and I've told people this story ever since that day because I remember it like it was yesterday. So I was about 5, and I was in this like little small apartment with my parents at the time in San Francisco in a rather old neighborhood. The house itself was pretty old. I always got really, really weird vibes from it, like just walking around, like I felt like I was always being watched, and I don't know, and I was fairly young, but I already felt weird vibes. Anyway, so I was sleeping in basically a crib. Yes, I was 5 in a crib because my parents were poor. And so we had like one of those Asian dividers that kind of blocked off like my crib from the rest of the living room. And my crib was right next to these sliding glass doors that went to the backyard. And so I would always hear noises at night, and but it would be like raccoons or whatever. One night, like, I woke up, but it wasn't because of noise. Like, I just felt like I felt something, like, I don't know, watching me. So I looked up, like, up above me, and I see these 3 very tall, white, opaque-ish figures with big faces and like no eyes or nose, but they had mouths, and out of their mouths, like they were like speaking to each other in whatever language. I don't know what language it was, but they were communicating in somehow. And I remember I got so scared I froze, and for some reason I woke up with like my arms above my head, and I tend to wake up like that. Maybe I was overheated, but both my arms were like up above like this, and I kind of stayed stuck in that position because I was terrified. And so then one comes over to the side of my bed and proceeds to reach down, all the way down. They were very tall, so reach all the way down, and a long pink tongue came out of its mouth. I remember a long pink tongue, and I kid you not, it licked up both of my arms. And at that time, I was religious. At the time, I was raised to pray to the God I believed in, and so at the time it was the God Jehovah. So I remember like praying, and like I was terrified, and my body just froze, and I shut my eyes. And next thing I know, I woke up. It was the next day. There was red markings all up and down my arms. The reason why I'm realizing I might have been abducted, 2 reasons. I know it sounds crazy, but stay with me. First reason, I have had severe insomnia since I was a baby. Like, especially if I'm afraid, there's no way I fell asleep. There's just no way I would have stayed awake for the entire night until the sun came up or something. Second, I also saw a video recently here where someone was talking about a very similar story, and they woke up with certain markings on their body, certain red markings, and I realized that was the exact same markings that I had. So the next day, I told my parents, of course, and they didn't believe me. They were like, oh, like, you were dreaming, for one, or they said, oh, those are bug bites. It doesn't make sense because it was just all up and down my arms in very uniform patterns. And then 3, they said it was hives or allergies, but I'm not allergic to anything that would cause that. Anyways, yeah, never really found out, but apparently I'm not the first one with this experience, so I would love to hear yours.
Alright, so I'm about to go to bed, but I wanted to ask, do you want to hear a scary story? And I'd be very curious to know if anyone has a similar story. So, when I was about 4 years old, my mom and my aunt dropped me and my cousin off at this couple's house. And they were supposed to babysit us so that they could go out, and they were going to come pick us up the next morning. So, we go to their house, and they have these 2 daughters, and me and my cousin we're taken to their room because it's nighttime and they're going to go to sleep. And the one girl sleeps on one side of the room and the other one sleeps in the other. And they have these little twin beds. And one of the girls is like, oh, you want to come and lay down with me? And then the other girl's like asking my cousin, you want to come lay with me? So we both go and lay down in these girls' beds. I wake up on the living room floor. I'm no longer in this little girl's bed. My cousin's nowhere to be found. And I'm laying on the floor on like a mat with a pillow. And this is where it gets really weird. There's like hundreds, if not thousands, of these kind of purple, pink, fuzzy looking things, and they're all over the floor, like crawling around. They're crawling up the walls. I look up, and like it's all over the walls, the painting that this woman has, I guess, over her fireplace. They're everywhere. Thousands of these like fluffy, purplish, dark colored looking, I don't know, creatures, you know? They were almost like spiders, but not. And I couldn't physically feel them because they were crawling all around me, on me, but I could see them. So I start screaming, and the woman runs out, and I'm like, all these things are spiders. And she said, no, they're not spiders. Don't worry. Like, she acknowledges that they're there, but she said they're not spiders. And so she's like, come on, I'll take you to the girls' room. And I'm like, where's my cousin? And she's like, oh, she's laying in my bed. Don't worry about it, which was weird too. And so we go, and she drops me off with the daughters again. And one of the daughters, the same one that I had laid down with, was like, do you want to come lay down with me? And I go lay down with her, and I'm laying, like her bed's up against the wall, and I'm got my back turned to her, and I'm looking down on the ground watching these things, because they're in their room too, but there's less of them, and they're crawling around on the floor. And I asked the little girl, like, what are those? And she says, they won't hurt you. But she doesn't tell me what they are, and granted, I'm like a little girl, I'm 4, I think I'm around 4. And I'm watching these things, and one of them dives and hits the wall. It's like goes flying over and then hits the wall. And then it's this little tiny, like, a box shows up where it hits. Guys, I feel so crazy even saying this. But it looks like the box looks like a black and white, miniature, like this big TV screen with a man talking inside of it, almost like a newscast person. I don't hear what he's saying, but he's talking, and then it like fizzles out and disappears. I look over on the floor again, another one does it, flies over, lands on the wall, and does it again. And it happens over and over again. And that's kind of all I remember until, I know my mom and my aunt came and picked us up in the morning, and they came and got us. I remember trying to explain what had happened, but the lady tells my mom, oh, Cammie had a nightmare and woke up, and she was really upset. But that was pretty much it. Everyone just thought it was a bad dream that I had. But here's something weird. So, when my older daughter, she's 17 now, was about 6 or 7. I saw her on the floor, kind of crawling around, smiling at something, and I'm like, what are you smiling at? And she's like, it's so cute. It's got these little legs, and it's like a purplish, pinkish, black color, and it's just hopping around. I'm like, what? I don't see anything. And then she looks up into the corner by the ceiling, where the wall meets up in the ceiling, and she's staring at it and smiling and going, oh, it's so cute and little. And I was like, I rebuke that in Jesus' name. I told her, don't follow it around. Don't mess with it. Don't talk to it. Don't, whatever that is, don't do that. And I didn't want to scare her or freak her out because she wasn't, like me. But I saw thousands of whatever these were. I don't know if it was the same thing that she was seeing, but it was definitely strange that she was seeing something that kind of sounded like what I had seen. So I rebuked that. I told her to rebuke it. I was like, please don't mess with stuff like that. But, I know some people will be like, oh, stuff like that, it's harmless. Or some people will say, Cammie, you're crazy. It was a dream. But it wasn't a dream. I know it wasn't. I've always felt in my heart that it was never a dream. I don't know what it was, and I don't have an answer for it. But if you've ever had something similar, please comment down below, because no one has ever shared anything like that with me before other than my daughter. So I'm very curious about anyone's thoughts on that.
Is anybody old enough to remember the YouTube video of the man that got abducted by aliens? Which is no longer available on YouTube. You can't find the video anywhere. But the video was posted by the man's sister because he had been missing since the tape had been found. Do anybody recall that? I don't remember how old I was, but I remember it was when YouTube was still coming up and, you know, AI was not a thing and everybody was doing like basic life videos on YouTube, right? And there was this man who had came across my YouTube feed who he was doing this video, which he wasn't like a regular vlogger or nothing, but he was started doing videos because he said aliens was coming to his house. So he was trying to set up his camera in his house so he could catch it. And I think it's the same guy who ended up catching a video of the little gray alien actually like peeking in his back, like glass sliding door. You could see her like peeking in and peeking back out, and he was like, I caught it. I think that's the same guy. Don't quote me on that because it might be two different scenarios, but I know they was like around the same time. But this guy in particular, I remember his video vividly. It was like a handheld little video camera. He was recording himself because he had a UFO land in his yard, and he was trying to film it from his window, and you could see like the lights in the woods and everything like that. You could see something peeking through his window at a different point. Like once he tried to like step away from the window, you could see something like peek over his windowsill. And I remember the video got like very dramatic, and it got to the point where it was like his power went out and he was hiding beside a dresser in his house, and he's like, it's something that's coming in my house. They're coming in my house. They're coming to get me, this, that, and the third. And it's like you could hear him struggling. You could hear him screaming. Like it was very, very dramatic, and you could hear him being dragged out of the house. And the video goes on for a little while after that, and then it's cut, and there's this like blue screen that comes up that says his sister's information. It says his name, the city and state that he was from, how long he had been missing, and if anybody had any information about him, or if anybody had seen him, to contact his sister, because she was the one who had came by his house to do a welfare check on him because he had been going through some weird things. And she found the camera there, but he wasn't there, and he didn't take anything with him. So she agreed with the police department to put the video out there to see if anybody could help find that man. And now that video, I don't think it's available at all on YouTube anymore. Does anybody remember that? Or is it just me?
So I've been thinking about making this video for a really long time. And I've been telling this story to people in my personal life for years. They all probably think I'm crazy. And a long time I thought I was crazy too. Still kind of do. Probably am crazy. I'm probably not going to ramble a lot in this video. So, it's been in the news a lot lately, all these drones and UAPs and stuff like that. And it's got everybody freaking out up in Jersey, and I guess it's spreading UK all over. I have my own experience a really long time ago. So I'll set the stage. It was back 2011, and a friend of mine had gotten married up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Anybody that knows me in my personal life, that was Gabe, and he's since got divorced and all that. Different story. Anyway, so I think it was about September 23rd, 2011. I'm with my ex-girlfriend at the time as well. Also, if anybody knows me in my personal life, that was Amber. You can ask her to verify this story. Make sure I'm not crazy. We're driving back from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I'm up in the mountains, and it's late at night. We got to make it back home that night to turn in the tuxedos, because if it doesn't make them there beyond a certain point the next day, it's going to get charged. So as we're driving back late at night on the mountains, we're on the road by ourselves, we see a shooting star, and we both point at it at the same time, like, oh, shooting star, you know, like it's making a big streak of light across the sky, and probably the clearest shooting star I've ever seen, and we both point at it. And as soon as we get really out of our mouths good, a shooting star, it just stops. No inertia to the stop, and this thing was moving, the fastest thing I've ever seen in the sky, like a streak of light, and it just stops. Bam, on a dime, just bam. There's no slowing down, no, you know, like a drone would, where it comes to a stop. If you've ever flown drones, it just stops, just bow. And we probably realized that this thing is not as, it's closer to us than we thought. It's not a star up in the sky. It's something in the air. But it did cross a large portion of the horizon. And it's bright, like a star. And we were both pointing at it like, what the F is that? And we stop in the road staring at this thing, and it goes dark, like the light goes out, like somebody flicks the light switch, but you can still see this object, whatever it was, after it went dark. It was a giant sphere in the sky, a big ball. And I don't know if it was black or metallic, because the contrast of this thing was different than the sky. You could see it, but it was dark, so maybe it was reflecting the darkness around it, so I think it was metallic. But as soon as it goes dark and we're like, screaming at it, like, what the F is that? It goes bright again. Bam, bright. And this thing is bright. It looks like it's on fire, like the surface of this thing is rolling. And as fast as it goes bright, it just shoots straight up, and out of the sky, just gone, just straight up, I guess into space or wherever. And that's my story. It looked nothing like these things we keep seeing on TV with the red and green lights and all that crap. This thing was anomalous. It was a flying ball in the air. I think about that moment every day. I probably look out in the air every time I go outside. Before I go to bed at night, when I wake up in the morning, it's what I'm thinking about. This thing I saw. Day I die, if I don't figure out what it was, I'll be thinking about it forever. It really shattered my concept of reality. Like, what is real in the world? What else is real? Is Bigfoot real? Is Loch Ness Monster real? Or cryptids real? That was real. That was really real. So, somebody out there knows. Anyway, thanks for listening to my story.
Story time on why we had to get my house blessed and saged, because there were paranormal activities going on. Okay, I'm just gonna tell a few incidences that happened. Let me know if you guys want more, because there's a bunch, but I'll try to tell the most interesting ones. By the way, these experiences have happened to everyone in the house, so I won't be just telling my stories. I'll be telling other people's in the house's stories. So this actually happened, I want to say, about a year ago. My sister's fiance was here because she lived at the house with him, and his name is David. Okay, the rest of us were out of town. I don't remember. I think we were at a volleyball tournament, but the rest of us were out of town. My sister was with us. No one was home except for David. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, my sister's getting spam calls from David, and so it wakes everyone up, and she answers the phone, and she's like, what's going on? And David goes, I can hear your mom calling me to come upstairs. I'm in the basement. I can hear her on top of the stairs telling me to come up. And in the background of this phone call, the dogs are going crazy, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, my mom is with us. We're out of state. She's not home. She is with us. But David's like, it's her voice. She's telling me to come upstairs. If you don't know what this is called, it's a mimic. You don't ever want to follow mimics because they're dangerous. So we tell David to stay in the bedroom. You can't go upstairs. You can't do anything. Just stay until it calms down. So there's that. There's not much to the rest of that story. He stayed downstairs, blah, blah, blah. That same weekend we were out of town. I think this was the next night. He told us that he heard a whole conversation going on upstairs and people walking upstairs. Keep in mind, he's home alone. That wasn't a real person. I've also had the same experience, but I wasn't home alone. I was just like in my bedroom, and my dad was like out of town, but he was coming home that day, and I had just woken up from a nap. Hadn't even checked my phone yet, but I heard my dad like calling for me, and having a conversation with my sister. So I go outside my room, and I'm like, Dad, like, are you home? Like, I can't wait to see you. And I was just like calling for him, because like I didn't hear him anymore. So I checked Life 360, because I was like, what the heck, where is he? Because I can't find him. He's still 2 hours away, and my sister isn't even home, so it's not possible that I heard those two having a conversation. Yeah. Another thing that happened to me, this was like, I want to say like 10 years ago. I was down in the basement. There's a wall, and then there's a door right here that leads into the laundry room. And this door was open. We had like all the lights off in the basement, and we were watching a movie. This was me and my older sister. We were watching a movie, chilling out. She ended up falling asleep like halfway through the movie. And I'm watching the movie, and in my peripheral vision, I see a very tall man standing in the doorway of my laundry room. I look over, it's gone. And I look back at the TV, because I'm like, oh, I just like saw something that wasn't there. Look back at the TV, in my peripheral vision, he's very clearly still standing there. So I look over again, gone. Look at the TV, there. This is what is called shadow people. They aren't known to be like dangerous or anything. They were kind of just there. You see them in your peripheral vision. The same thing happened at night. I was sleeping in my bed. I was facing the wall. I opened my eyes for some reason, standing right over me. And so I whipped my head around, gone. But still in my peripheral vision, standing right over me. I froze. I don't know what to do in this situation. So I just froze, put my head over my blanket, went back to sleep. Yeah. Scary. I don't even like thinking about it. This happened to my older sister, so I'm telling it from her perspective. She was home with her friend. Her friend says this whole story is true. It's not like she's just like making it up. Her friend like accounts for it too. They were moving something. They were just sitting in her room upstairs, and all of a sudden the drum set from downstairs starts playing. Nobody's home, but it's playing, like actually playing. It's not like something fell on it and it just like started playing. Like it started playing. And drum sets are something that just like start playing on their own. Like you need to actually hit them. So something was hitting them, and it wasn't just like one hit. It was several. And then the whole temperature in the house dropped, and it was like freezing. And then like doors started slamming. And so she ran out of the house, which was her friend. And then they called her friend's mom and had the whole house saged. So this was like years ago. We had the house blessed previously, but I don't know what that was, but that's scary. And I'm still terrified of this house. And I have like a bunch more stories, but they're not gonna fit in here. So if anyone sees this and you want more stories, let me know and I can make a series. But I only have like 70 followers, so I doubt anyone's gonna see this. But bye, love you guys. Here is part 2 of paranormal activities that have gone on in my house. Okay, I'm gonna start this off with the backstory of the property I live on. First of all, there were 2 people who have there was one like in this house and there was one on the property, and I'll explain that. I'm gonna start off with the first story, or the first death that happened on this property. And by on this property, I mean this happened in the 1800s. So the house is like no longer here, but it happened on this property. I'm not gonna give specific like case details or like anything, because you can find out exactly where I live, because I live on the property of where that happened. But anyway, 1860s, there was a married couple. They had 2 kids, a son and a daughter. The husband had some issues. He claims he was abused. Don't know if that's true. But his father either left or passed away, so he was left taking care of his mother, who later passed away. And he felt like he had to control everything. He felt like it was his obligation, blah, blah, blah. Moving on, him and his wife didn't get along very well. This was before, like, divorces were able to happen, so they couldn't get a divorce, blah, blah, blah. And one night, a Monday night, he came home intoxicated, got into an argument with his wife, grabbed an axe, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, grabbed an axe and unalived her and literally chopped her 2 pieces. Later on, the son found the body. He was later arrested, but that's the first death that happened. The second death that happened was in this house. An old lady died of old age. Nothing malicious happened, just passed away. And we will come back to this. So now back to the stories. This happened to David and my older sister. They're engaged. Doesn't matter. But anyway, I'll set the scene for you. It happened in my kitchen upstairs. The kitchen's like right here. I'll do a sideways view. Kitchen right here. And there are stairs like over here that go down behind like the kitchen wall. And then right next to the kitchen, there's a hallway going back here. My sister came upstairs while David was cooking dinner, so we thought it was my sister. She came upstairs, and the dog, Scrappy, he had gotten really spooked by something. David doesn't know what's happening, but he crawls with his like tail wedged in between his legs, like you know what a scared dog looks like, and he like runs downstairs. And my older sister is in the bathroom at this point, so David like is just cooking dinner, minding his own business, and my older sister starts asking him some like weird questions. I don't know the exact questions, so I don't want to quote and like be wrong, but asks him some weird questions like that she wouldn't normally ask. So he like was a little like, huh? And then my older sister ended up coming out of the bathroom and going through the back hall and just left it at that. And then David ended up going downstairs. Keep in mind, my older sister went in the back hallway. David went downstairs and went into his room, and there's my older sister sitting on the bed with her headphones on. And David looks really confused. He's like, weren't you just upstairs? Didn't you go in the back hallway? And my older sister's like, no, I've been down here like for a good hour or 2. And he's like, I was just having a whole conversation with you upstairs. And blocking out her name. She was like, that wasn't me. Like, I've been down here. So I want to say that was a mimic, but it didn't like hurt him. So, and mimics are usually dangerous, like, so, but I mean, looked exactly like her, talked like her. I mean, obviously like talked different, but had the same voice as her. But my older sister was downstairs the whole time. David was talking to a mimic. This story happened to my mother. Love her. there was one night she went to bed, woke up middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, and her window was open, and there was, she couldn't make out the figure, but there was a dark, like, non-human figure staring at her through the window. I'm pretty sure this was after we had the house blessed, so maybe trapped outside, blah, blah, blah. She said a prayer until she repeated a prayer until she fell asleep, and that was that. Didn't hurt her, anything, just was watching her. This actually happened, I want to say a week or 2 ago. I was home alone, chilling in my basement, and all of a sudden I hear the door open upstairs, and then the sink turns on, and I can hear the sink running and the water coming down the pipes, and then it turns off. And so I'm thinking someone, like, broke into the house, and I'm like, what the heck? So I texted my dad. I'll show you. Okay, here's the text messages from that night. Can you check the cameras? I heard a loud bang, which I thought was the door, but it was pretty loud. And then I swear I heard something, and then the sink. So there are obviously, like, non-evil spirits and ghosts. So we think that's the old lady that died in this house, because, like, things like that will happen, just, like, innocent stuff, like, doors will open, blah, 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 things will run, just stuff like that, just, like, innocent stuff. And sometimes ghosts just like to feel at home, and they do, like, homely stuff. So that's all I can say about that one. There was another time where my whole family was sleeping in the basement because we were just having a sleepover in the basement. Keep in mind, none of us were on the remote or anything. Like, the remotes were sitting on the table. At, like, 3 a.m., the TV goes off at full blast. It's full volume. I mean, we never even have the TV close to full volume, but it goes off full volume. My whole family, like, jumped up, and we were like, what the heck? So that happened too. If you guys want me to show any of, like, the scenes of where this happened in my house, or have any questions you want me to answer, feel free to comment, and I'll try to respond as much as I can. Also, I came up with an idea. I don't know if this is a good idea, or if you guys are interested, but I will put my email in my bio. If you guys want to email me your stories and then I can tell them, I think that would be, like, a fun thing to do, but I don't know if anyone will actually participate in that, but I love telling stories. So if you guys want to hear anything else, I have a lot of interesting stories. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day. Sorry this took me so long. I claim no bad energy. You don't claim any bad energy. I'm not giving you any bad energy. But stay safe. Love you guys. Bye-bye.